Hello engineering students. If you're watching this video, you are prepping for the Autodesk Inventor exam. This is hopefully going to be a quick, short, concise explanation of some of the things that the exam will be asking you that you may or may not remember or might need help accessing and figuring out. So here on my screen I had just a part that I'm going to be using to show you a bunch of different tips and tricks to ace the exam. In the exam, one of the first things you'll have to do is open files that are provided to you. And in the home screen of Autodesk Inventor, you should see an open button here, or you can go to File, Open. And you'll have to access a very specific file folder. So you'd have to go to Look In, and either the C drive, and you'll be asked to go into Autodesk exam files or something like that, and then you'll see a bunch of Inventor files pop up. So for example, let me go into my model folder, and you'll see like this says Part 1, Solid 1, and you'll have to look for the file name in order to open it. So for example, let me just open up problem 2-4. So let's say that the exam asks you to open problem 2-14. So then you'd open it and then read the rest of the questions that follow in the exam. So first, right off the bat, you need to know where the view cube is. So we all should know how to manipulate this view cube, how to right click on it to change the views, set the views, and even go into the options. Okay. You also need to know that on the left side here is the browser. So this is the browser, and this is where you can update your sheet size or update your features on a part. Some of the questions might ask you to click the plus right here, or it might say expand. So if it asks you that, you just click the plus, and then you either have to right click on the part itself and edit the feature, or you might have to go into the sketch and edit the sketch. The exam will ask you to open up parts and then go in and say, it might ask something like, all right, now find sketch 3 and change a dimension. So you'd have to literally open the part, edit the sketch, change whatever it's asking you to change, finish, and then it will almost always go and say, now they need to know the mass. So you'd have to go to File, iProperties, Physical. You'd update the part. You make sure that you're in the correct material for whatever material they're asking it to be in. And then you might have to copy and paste the mass into the answer box, or the area, or the volume, or even the density. Now, one of the things that you'll notice in the exams is the way they're asking you to insert the information. So it might look like something like this. So the question will say, let me just type here an example of what it would look like. So it'll say something like, all right, find the mass and insert the numbers that you found. And it'll look like this, and you have to know that they're looking for 2 numbers with a decimal followed by 3 numbers. So these pound signs represent how many digits they're looking for. So it might just be 1 digit in front with 1 decimal and 2 digits after it. If you find that, let's say your mass is like 0.12 or something like that, then you'd literally have to type in 0.12 in the space. You almost never have to include the units that are after it. It'll probably include those units with it, and you won't have to type those in. Whenever it's asking for a weight, it's going to be the mass. There's a question that asks you about, there's several questions that might ask you about revolve. So if you haven't learned how to revolve, make sure you do the lessons on revolve. There's questions about circular patterns and rectangular patterns. So for example, this is exercise 19 from a long time ago. and you learned how to create the circular pattern for these holes. So sometimes a question might say, now add a circular pattern and put 4 holes. So you might open a part, it might already have one of the holes. So let me delete that. So see how that shows only one hole? It might say now add the rest, and it'll give you an example of what they're looking for. So then you'd have to go to circular pattern, and you'd have to click on the feature, so that would be the feature here. And then you'd have to click on the rotation axis, which would be one of the circles. And then it says placement. You'd have to either put, for this one there's 6, so that would work for this, but it might be 2, or it might be 3 or 4 or even more. So then you'd click OK, and then the question will say something like, now that you've added the holes, what is the total mass? So you'd go to iProperties, go to physical, you update, make sure you're on the correct material for whatever it might be, and the material might change, it might not change. And now look, my mass is 0.320 for this part. Knowing that the material is stainless steel and the mass is this, and the density is this. There might be a question about finding the area of a loop. So it might ask you, it might show you the sketch. It might highlight the outline. So let me move my mouse over this. So you see how there's that green outline on this? It might say something like, now find the area of that loop. And what does that mean? The loop is just the sketch here, that green outline. So what you'd have to do is you'd right click on that, click new sketch, click project geometry, project the geometry of the entire loop or that closed sketch. Click on inspect, and right here in region properties, a menu is going to pop up, and you'd click on that surface and make sure that your units are in the units that you're testing in. So it might be inches, it might be centimeters. You click calculate, and then there's the area right there. So it might ask you for that information. You'd have to copy and paste that into the answer box. It might even ask you for the perimeter. Okay, click done, finish sketch. Let me see if I can find a revolve example of what they might be looking for. Alright, so here's an example of a revolved part. So they might ask you to go into the sketch of the revolved part, the revolution, and edit it. So they might say go into sketch 1, 2, 3, whatever the sketch number might be, edit the sketch, and they might ask you to, cut out a piece or even modify a piece or change the diameter of a piece. So let me undo this. So you see how this says 14 in the diameter? They might say something like, now change the diameter to 10, and you'd change the diameter and you'd finish sketch, and the part will update, and then you go to File iProperties in the Physical tab and update it, and insert whatever they're asking for. They might ask for the mass, the area, the volume, the density, and then you just keep it moving. They might even hide parts of a sketch inside of it and not revolve it. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me just add a random rectangle here and let me finish the sketch. So I added that rectangle, but you don't see it in the revolution. They might say something like there's a piece that was forgotten to be cut out or added. So you'd go into the revolution, you right click on revolution, edit feature, and what you do is you see that there's 2 profiles selected and your sketch is there, and they might want to add this little bit to the revolution. So then you'd actually you'd click it, right, or you might have to cut it. So let's see, I don't think cut is available right now. Let me go. That's the full. Yeah, well, hold on, let me cancel that. Let's go into the edit feature. Let me see, is slice available? Slice is not available. Right click, edit feature. Okay, there it is. So see that right there? See how it's like the little sketch is inside of it? So you'd have to hover over that, right? And you'd click, and it might be a cut instead of a, why is my cut not showing up? fully do that. Cancel. Let's click on Revolution, Sketch 1, edit sketch. You know what I have to do? I have to go into edit sketch. I'm going to project the geometry. Well, it's not letting me do that either. Anyways, you'd have to edit the feature and either select the whole thing or the outside part, and then click OK, and then again go into File, Properties, Physical, Update, and see what changes, and then insert that information for whatever changed. There might be a question about the sweep command. So you might see something pop up in the file that you open, and it might look something like this, where there's a line and a circle or some other shape, and it'll ask you to sweep it. So you'll click sweep, you'll click on the profile, which is whatever shape the circle is, and then the path, which is whatever line it is. And they might ask you to taper it or twist it, and you'd have to put in the degrees there. It might be a negative degree, it might be a positive degree, and then you'd click OK. And you'd, again, go into File, Properties, Physical, and get whatever information they're asking for you for on that. You might be asked to remove material, and you might have to shell the material. So if I click shell, let me show you what I mean. If I click remove faces, I click remove faces and then click these two surfaces, you see what it's doing? It's taking out the material from the inside, and then you have to double check that your thickness is correct. It might be like 0.05 or 0.07 or something, and you'd click OK, and then you'd have to do something else. They might ask you to chamfer excuse me, chamfer an edge according to the distance and an angle, and you'd do that. So like, I don't know, 0.01 or something, and you apply it, click OK, and then do whatever steps. They might ask you to fill it or emboss or loft, and then of course, again, Properties, Physical, Update, and find whatever information they're asking for in there. And lastly, there is in your Google Classroom, this is in your classwork tab on the left. If you go to resources, there's going to be several resources there, like a study guide and some other things that I'll be posting in there for you to look through. And of course, you can always go, so like for example, if you click on the PDF for the certification guide, it shows you a list of objectives here that you should know how to do. So if you go through that short list there's not that much, and you know how to do most of this stuff, then you're in a good position. And if there's something on here that doesn't make sense to you, like project geometry, then you can do a YouTube search. Go to Autodesk Inventor, how to project geometry, and find a short, quick video explaining how to do that. Or just ask me. I'll show you how to do that right now. So to project the geometry, you just, either right-click New Sketch on a side of a shape, click Project Geometry, click the shape, finish sketch, and boom, you're done. So use the resources that are available to you. Study this video. There's so much other things that you should already know. This video's purpose was to show you some of the things that trip up most students because they forgot or haven't really done that much work on those particular skills. So hopefully you're ready for the exam, and good luck. And I really want you to try your hardest. Remember that it is one of the graduation pathways, and it is one resume builder that can land you a job as an engineer in the technical drafting field. Thanks for watching.